Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Combluzia, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities, Inc. Today's webinar features Torq Resources. Torq is a copper and gold explorer that is earning into a portfolio of early-stage epithermal porphyry and IOCG projects in Chile. Chile is the world's most prolific copper producer and features numerous world-class copper mines operated by majors. Torq offers blue-sky discovery potential at its three key assets: the Santa Cecilia Gold-Copper Project, the Margarita IOCG Project, and the Andrea Copper Porphyry Project. The company is currently drilling at Santa Cecilia in the Maricunga Belt, where a historical intercept returned over 925 meters of 0.21 grams per ton gold and 0.27% copper. Today I have with me on the webinar Shawn Wallace, who's Chief Executive Officer and Chair, as well as Michael Henrichsen, who's the Chief Geological Officer at Torq Resources. The format of today's webinar will be comprised of two parts. In the first part, Shawn and Michael will provide an introduction to Torq Resources, and then in the second part, we'll take your questions live. So please submit your questions using the chat, and we'll get to as many as we can. And I'll note that you can type your questions in at any point throughout the presentation. To start, we'll handle the disclosures, and then I'll turn it over to Shawn and Michael. So for Torq Resources, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the Torq corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for Torq Resources specific disclosures. So with that out of the way, I'll turn it over to Shawn and Michael to introduce you to Torq and what investors have to look forward to with the company. Please take it away, gentlemen.
Well, thanks very much, Taylor, and thank you everybody for spending your time today to hear about our exciting company, Torq Resources, a company focused on looking for large-scale copper-gold porphyry-style mineralized systems in Chile, one of the most prolific countries for that type of mining. All the major mining companies, successful major mining companies, have significant operations in Chile. So for us, it's a great place to be. As Taylor pointed out, just for the disclaimers, please take a moment to realize that we will be making forward-looking statements. So Torq is a Vancouver-based junior exploration company, and we currently have 3 projects that we're working on. 2 primarily are getting drilled this year, and the Andrea project is a project that we're keeping for later. It's our earlier stage project. We have the Santa Cecilia project, which is currently being drilled, and the Margarita project, which is an IOCG style deposit, which we made a new discovery last year, which will have its 3rd pass of drilling coming up here this summer. Santa Cecilia is a large gold copper porphyry sandwiched between the Caspiche and Cerro Casale deposits. It had a historical intercept of 900 plus meters, of about 0.5% copper equivalent, just shy of that. And so we're very excited to get working on that this year. As I mentioned already, we're in the process of completing our first drill program, the first phase of our first drill program, which will again resume when the weather allows us to in the late in this year. The Margarita project, as I mentioned, has had 2 drill passes on it already. One that we made the discovery and one where we were able to expand the Follow 13 discovery, but we'll talk about that a bit more. We've uncovered an awful lot of very exciting targets at the Margarita project for the upcoming drill campaign. A little bit about the capital structure. The company's got about 110 million shares out, about 136 fully diluted. We've got a decent treasury, will take us into the end of the year. Of note, we have a corporate partner via shareholding in Goldfields. They invested $15 million last year in September at a nice premium to market. And for that, they have got the right to maintain that ownership, the 15%, in subsequent financings. So we really enjoy working with Goldfields and continue to foster that relationship. As typical with our companies, if you know our group, we have high insider ownership. We like to align ourselves with shareholders. When the stock does well, we do well, although it hasn't really done that lately. I think the market we're in right now is challenging. but we are still managing to keep the company financed and keeping working these very exciting opportunities. In particular, our Chilean team is the real reason for the success, for our ability to make the acquisitions we made and to move forward the projects that we've got on deck. I'm going to hand the mic over to Michael right now, and he can take you through his Chilean team and with a little bit of an update what's happening at the projects technically right now. Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. Obviously, partnering with Waldo Quadra and his team has been a pleasure. I mean, these guys have had a track record of discovery in Chile, where they found the El Moro deposit, which is now held by Teck and Newmont in the Nueva Union JV. They have ability to bring projects to the table, not only from a technical standpoint and their evaluations, but also having relationships with the underlying owners. And that's precisely how we got both the Santa Cecilia and Margarita projects on deck, both held by very well-known, prominent Chilean families. And just a pleasure to be able to sort of navigate that Chilean exploration space to come into these discovery-based opportunities. Let's do a review of Santa Cecilia here. I mean, basically, Santa Cecilia is in the Maricunga Belt. You know, we have about 80 million ounces of gold and 20 billion pounds of copper around us within about a 10-kilometer radius. We're immediately adjacent to the Norte Abierto joint venture held by Newmont and Barrick, 50-50. You know, Caspiche and Cerro Casale are 50 million ounces of gold and 13 billion pounds of copper between the two deposits. And, you know, really for us, we feel that we can match that. You know, we feel there's another Caspiche or another Cerro Casale on the Santa Cecilia project. And I think one of the things that's very unique about this project is that it's basically been frozen in time since 1990. You know, the underlying owner is a very famous Chilean mining entrepreneur. He held some of the biggest discoveries early on, such as Pascua and El Indio and the Maricunga deposit just to the north of us. And so he has been able to hold this deposit or this project for a number of years, you know, decades, in fact. And Anglo came in from 1988 to 1990, did the first round of work. They were looking for oxide gold. They found some. It was very interesting. It was epithermal mineralization. They also put in some exploration drifts and, you know, managed to find some high-grade gold veins. But at the time, nobody really understood the porphyry scenario in the Maricunga. And, you know, in that intervening time from 1990 to 2012, Caspiche and Cerro Casale had been discovered, at which point the owner said to himself, I'm going to see if there's a porphyry underneath that oxide mineralization. And, you know, that's where the 925 meters of 0.45 copper equiv comes from. So we basically get to expand on that discovery. And effectively, what I want everybody to realize is that it's like going back in time. You get to go back to 1990 in the Maricunga Belt, prolific, all these discoveries made around us, and this piece of ground that's just been sitting here, you know, which is very well mineralized and altered. So we are really the first group since 2012 to do any work here, and really I would argue since 1990 this is the first systematic exploration over that time period. So what we have here is a 10 square kilometer hydrothermal system, and Caspiche is part of that system. It's off to the eastern side. What we know is that we've identified, you know, multiple porphyry centers from geochemistry, mapping, and geophysics, you know, boots on the ground, classic exploration. And each one of these to us has the potential to be another Caspiche. You know, for us to be in a position where we have these multiple targets that have never been drilled is pretty exceptional. Now, Anglo did do some drilling, as I pointed out, and they did drill some oxide gold. You know, there was 40 holes in that for about 14,000 meters of drilling. And basically they left, you know, the vast majority of the project undrilled. And that just allows us to get after these new porphyry targets that, you know, again, you know, have all the hallmarks of what a Caspiche looks like prior to discovery, or a Cerro Casale. So just a beautiful position to be in terms of, you know, multiple targets that can deliver. So as I said, you know, we were the first group to really do any systematic exploration work here since 1990. What we've done is we've identified several porphyry targets, which are outlined in the colors that you see here. So I'm just trying to do the whiteboard thing. So basically what I can tell you here is that Pircus Norte and Gemelos, these are porphyry systems that are outcropping on surface. As you go further to the, west at Cerro del Medio and Flanco Norte and Vetus Condor, they're a little bit deeper, probably 200 to 300 meters depth. And then finally at Pircus Sur, we're really looking at, probably a 500 meter depth to target area. I think it's really important to note, though, that we have outcropping porphyry mineralization with good gold and good copper values, both at Pircus Norte and Gemelos, and certainly will be a couple of targets that we intend to drill here shortly. And I think another aspect to tell everybody about is all the geology, the geophysics, and the geochemistry is all pointing to these targets very clearly. I was very lucky to work for Newmont in some of the big districts in the world. And when all of those different data sets start to agree with one another, that's when you can start feeling confident about your targeting. So what I'd like to show you here now is the historical mineralization that was drilled. You can see the shallow drilling here on top of that hill. That's the old Anglo drilling. They were successful in finding some good oxide gold. There was some good high grade, 22 meters of a gram, or some bigger lower grade intercepts at 250 meters plus at 0.37 grams gold. And that body hangs together. But at the time, again, they didn't have the benefit of knowing that porphyries even existed here. So in 2012, you can see that deeper drill hole was put in, and lo and behold, what you're looking at is 1.5 kilometers of continuous vertical mineralization. And that purple shape that you see in the background is a geophysics survey that got completed after the deeper drill hole. And what we see here is a 1-to-1 correlation between this purple color, low resistivity, and the porphyry intercept. And what I'd like to point out here is that blob of purple is about 2 kilometers by 1 kilometer by 1.5 kilometers in dimension. And somewhere in there, we feel there's going to be a high-grade causative intrusion. That drill hole intercept of 925 meters is all in wall rock. And if you look to the adjacent Caspice deposit, there's a high-grade core surrounded by wall rock mineralization that's basically very similar grade. So our job in this big porphyry system here at Cerro del Medio is to find that high-grade causative intrusion, which would be equivalent, to some of those grade intercepts at Caspice, where you're looking at 1,000 meters of about a gram per ton and 0.4–0.5% copper. That's what we're after. We're after that high-grade intrusion. What you see here is some of the deeper drill holes in the blue traces. You can see, the intercepts are pointed out. And then you can see this northeast trending structural corridor. This is something that we wanted to concentrate on as we saw porphyries outcropping on surface. We saw breccia bodies. We saw the geologic complexity that would be related to porphyries. And so we decided to drill from the east back towards the west. So we've got a couple of drill holes in here. We're just about to complete our second drill hole to the tune of 2,000 meters in total. We've tested a 700 meter strike length of that northeast corridor. And, what I can tell you is, from the standpoint of trying to find porphyries in this part of the world, both Caspice and Cerro Casale are structurally controlled. And that's why we've taken this course. And certainly from the perspective of finding new geology, breccias, different porphyry phases, the things that can lead you to a discovery, we're certainly seeing that in our drilling here in the first couple of holes. So we're just about to wrap up here on our first, couple of holes into Santa Cecilia. We plan to resume in Q4 of this year. We're pausing for the Chilean, right? I mean, there's no point in being up there while it's snowing and hemorrhaging money. You want to be up there in good conditions. And so we'll be returning in Q4. All of our pre-drilling surface work is largely complete. And so what that means when we come back is it's pretty surgical in terms of our drilling. We've identified those 7 targets. Each one of them has the potential to be another Caspice. We know where they are. We've got all the data together. We're going to go drill them. This takes us to our second project, the Margarita project. It's an IOCG discovery we've made in the coastal Cordillera Belt. We're located, beautifully 65 kilometers north of the city of Copiapó, one of the great mining centers in Chile. We're sandwiched between Lundin's Candelaria mine and the Manto Verde mine and Santo Domingo deposit of Capstone. And we've made this great discovery that's about 800 meters long right now with some pretty good grades. You'll see our first drill hole, discovery drill hole, was 90 meters of just shy of 1% copper and 0.84 grams gold. And we followed that up with the second hole of 98 meters of nearly 1 gram gold and 0.68% copper. So we know the system can produce grade, and we know we've got 800 meters. And for us, this is just the start. We have a bunch of other targets that look very similar to our discovery on the property, and that'll be the focus of our upcoming drill program. So what you see here is just very simply, the 513 discovery. You can see the drill hole traces basically in the middle of the project area. And then you can see these red polygons that are outlined. I think a couple of important things to mention about our discovery. First off, it looks to continue by gold geochemistry and geology and geophysics for another 800 meters to the northeast. So it effectively double the strike length and put us at about 1.5 kilometers if we have good exploration success. The other thing that we feel very strongly about is just to the south of the 513 discovery is the Remolino target, which effectively looks identical to us in terms of the magnetic signature, the geology, the gold geochemistry. And we're just excited to get a drill on that as soon as we possibly can. And then we've had some surprises. One of the things that is quite interesting about the Margarita project is that it's very gold rich. And for an IOCG, it's unusually gold rich, which is a great problem to have. So we had to kind of rethink our geochemical vectoring. At the start, we were just going mostly on copper, but we've really discovered that gold and copper are a 1-to-1 correlation. And so with the gold geochemistry data, we've really outlined new targets both in the northeast and northwest areas of the project that, no one had really any clue about. So again, very target rich, good expansion potential in our discovery. And, we just have to drill the next body of mineralization in one of these targets. And then the complexion of the project will change as, if you go back historically and look at Candelaria and Manto Verde, these great deposits, they're sort of found one discrete body at a time, and you sort of build out from there. So that's our objective. Find that second body, extend our discovery, and then we'll really be on to something important, and within the belt will be our feeling. So this just shows you a little bit about the extension here. We're out to make this a bigger system. We have a couple of different things to chase. First off, the northeast extension, but we also have these cross-cutting faults that are sort of west-northwest oriented. Those are also mineralized and are going to be very important for us to sort of expand this body of mineralization laterally as well. So, for us, when we look at this, very early days, we've only got about 13, 14 drill holes into the 513 discovery. And certainly for us, we believe that this will get significantly bigger here with another drill test. Now, one of the things you see on cross-section here that I think is very important is you see these green rocks here. These are volcanics, and then you see these pink rocks underneath, and these are intrusions. And it's right at that boundary between the volcanics and the intrusions that you really get the high-grade mineralization dumping out. And one of the things that we want to do and explore for in the subsequent round of drilling that we're going to embark on here in the coming months is we want to look for that flat-lying manto-style mineralization like a Manto Verde. And we believe that, those fluids that are migrating up these vertical structures will go lateral. And that's a great way to build a lot of tons very quickly. So again, not only is it a northeast extension, but it's lateral extensions on this flat-lying horizon between the volcanics and the intrusions. And I think that's very important for us to chase because, as I said, if we can get into a flat-lying body, that's going to build a lot of tons very quickly at very shallow depths. So for us right now, we're just in the midst of targeting phase 3 at Margarita. We intend to go after a number of different targets on the property. our job is to find that second pot of mineralization. We'll get started here in Q3 of this year, and ultimately, with that drill program, we hope to sort of change the complexion of the project and put it on everybody's radar. This brings us to our third project, the Andrea project. It's situated within the El Indio belt, obviously extremely well known for epithermal mineralization and has some of the great epithermal deposits of South America in it, Pascualama, El Indio, et cetera. One of the things that our team has recognized, and they were active back in the El Indio belt in the 90s when it was really a lot of discoveries were ongoing. They found copper porphyry mineralization that people just weren't really looking for, and we've got a 3.5 kilometer by 1 kilometer alteration system. Geophysics is done. There's very clear targets. We have outcropping porphyry mineralization. But that alteration package is largely obscured by a landslide. So where you see these little erosional windows through the landslide, you're sitting on copper porphyries. And I think for us, we got to get a drill bit into this. The property selection of our team in Chile, with our very first drill program in Margarita leading to a discovery, we believe the exact same potential is here, for really, important copper porphyry discovery. So again, I just point to our team and their project selection. If you look at our portfolio in its entirety, the guys that had their eyes on these three projects for 15 years, Torq came along and we decided that, hey, as two groups, the Chilean group and the Canadian group, that, we have the perfect synergy. We can take care of the capital markets and the money raising up here. And they certainly provided us with an exceptional portfolio of opportunities. So over the coming year, we're going to be a drill-focused company. We're going to be busy drilling, Santa Cecilia and Margarita. And, really, if I was going to give you a sort of a tagline in terms of what Torq really is, we're going to be drilling on discoveries, whether we're following up at discovery at Santa Cecilia or going for our own new discovery there or following up on our own discovery at Margarita. It's an exceptional place for a junior to really be focused in on, following up on discoveries. So we've made that critical threshold of the discoveries. And now it's just to see how big they are and what kind of grades we can pull out of these projects. So again, look for us to resume drilling at Santa Cecilia in Q4 of this year. And in Q3, we'll be busy drilling at Margarita. At Andrea, we want to keep this sort of, percolating along a little slower than the other two, as we've got a clear focus on the other two projects now. But as I said, we absolutely believe in the potential at Andrea, and we will advance that to drill stage in the coming year. So I think that gives us a fairly good overview, and any questions that are out there, we'll do our best to answer.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Shawn and Michael. So now we'll turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar. And just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type your questions in at any point. So maybe to get things going, maybe the first thing I'll kick off with is maybe could you just give us an update on the latest developments in Chile as a jurisdiction? It's been in the news lately, and given the controversial mining royalty bill that proposed increasing royalties on certain copper producers. Obviously, you're an explorer, but maybe just talk about what it's like on the ground for us.
Shawn, do you want to handle that?
Yeah, well, sure. Certainly, we're aware of all the things happening in Chile right now. Some of these are proposed legislations. They really don't affect us directly. Obviously, it would change the climate here if they were too onerous. I think, our experience in Chile has been over the last few years is, with a new government coming in, with the rewriting of a constitution, there's an awful lot of sort of speculation as to what sort of changes might come, I think. But almost in every case, the Chilean government has demonstrated that they're going to ride the center. They're not going to go too far left, too far right. It's been traditionally quite a conservative country. Is pulling a little bit more to the middle now, and they really have not treated mining poorly thus far. Unfortunately, with the internet, or fortunately, information travels quickly. It's not always necessarily accurate, and it might be people trying to fulfill a political agenda by saying certain things. So there's been nothing material that has come to our attention that would affect us directly at present.
Okay, great. That's helpful. So we do have a question from one of the viewers, kind of along the same lines here. I'll just read it out here. Chilean courts have requested a new environmental evaluation for the Norte Abierto project. Are you aware of what the issues are and if they would also apply to Santa Cecilia?
Yeah, we're, obviously aware that, it's under environmental evaluation at Norte Abierto. Honestly, it's not our project, so we don't really know exactly what's going on. What I would say though is it's an incredible store of metal. 50 million ounces of gold and 13 billion pounds of copper. And, I know that, obviously Norte Abierto is looking to advance. The Chilean authorities are pretty straightforward to deal with. You have to do things the right way. And if you do, then, you can advance. And that's been proven in my mind, with what's happened at Los Bronces here lately, where they got their approval, right? At the start, it was a bit of a hiccup, and then they got their approval and away they go. And so I don't really see anything. There's nothing that we know that's, materially going to impact them. For us, we have a very good situation sitting here with the communities at Santa Cecilia. We've had no issues with permitting whatsoever. For us, it's just been business as usual. So, nothing that's going to affect us.
Okay, great. So maybe now just turning to the projects, maybe just what are the elevations of Santa Cecilia and Margarita? Is altitude a factor there, and what about water availability?
Yeah, Santa Cecilia is it's basically between 3,800 meters and say 4,300 meters. So it's at altitude, but easily this is typical Andean work. I've been doing this for a long time, and by no stretch is this a difficult area to work. Because of the Norte Abierto deposits, there's good roads. We feel like it's very accessible. You can drive there from Copiapó in about 2.5 hours. So we're not very remote in terms of the Andes at all. So we're in good shape there. Water, of course, in Chile is an issue. We know that. I think we have to look at it in terms of the context of what happens if we find the next big, deposit of plus 20 million ounces. Then you're looking at a mining complex that's enormous. Could that sustain a desal plant? Of course it could. But that's the reality of working in Chile. If you're going to permit a new mine, you're looking at desal. With respect to Margarita, we're down low on the coast, 1,200 meters elevation, paved roads, power lines, basically almost a project. So very simple to work. We can work there 12 months a year. So from the perspective of, thresholds of discovery, obviously they're much lower down in the coastal Cordillera. And I think for us to be on a discovery like we are could be very valuable for our shareholders and Torq.
Right. Excellent. Okay. And with that, I guess, turning back to Santa Cecilia, you mentioned going on pause until Q4, given the Chilean winter. What kind of timelines are you kind of expecting roughly for drill results from the initial holes that you drilled there?
Well, we're just wrapping up the second hole now, so obviously we're going to have to deal with the core. I would suggest that come August, late July, August, we'll be getting into those results. And then, of course, if our plans depending on when we start Margarita, we would hope to have first drill results coming out of Margarita sometime in September. But, we haven't confirmed the start of the drill program there. But we'll be catalyst rich with drill results starting here in the North American summer and into the fall.
Okay, and are the turnarounds for assays pretty well known down there? I know in the past up here there's been issues, but that's kind of alleviating given the market right now and not everybody drilling given financing constraints.
Yeah, it's 4 to 6 weeks. It's kind of what we're looking at. So not terrible, not as bad as it has been here in the past. So, as I say, that should time with sort of late July, August results out of Santa Cecilia.
Okay, great. Okay, we have a question here just on the corporate side in terms of your current funding. You did a raise recently. In the past, you had the Goldfields investment as well. Maybe you could just give us an overview of where you stand right now and if what percentage of that Goldfields money is still available for work. You're just on mute, Shawn.
Is that better?
Yep, here you go.
Sorry about that. I don't know how I went on mute, but in any event, yeah, so we're currently financed. We'll be financing before the end of the year is the easy answer. We'll need additional capital. I think to break out the Goldfields amount and stuff, we've sort of spent what was required for that particular component of their investment on Santa Cecilia and Margarita. Part of it was enabled to do that. The last financing we did, that took care of our G&A and so forth. So, we won't need to have that conversation going forward here because as they maintain their 15% going forward now, it won't be directed into any one project. But yeah, no, we'll certainly need to be funding before the end of the year here this year. We can't talk about our specific budgets because we still have to get drill results back from Santa Cecilia and get a board-approved drill program at Margarita. But certainly we will be looking to fill the treasury up before the end of the year here.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully that should provide clarity for the person asking that question there. Okay. I'll put out another call for questions. I think we've addressed all the ones that have come in through the chat so far. But maybe while we wait for any last minute questions, I'll give you the floor just to kind of outline maybe top reasons for investors to buy your stock.
Yeah, well, I think, primarily it's the jurisdiction. Chile is a fantastic jurisdiction, so there's not a lot of political risk. I think that's one of the reasons why people should feel comfortable investing in a stock like this. There's been proof of large-scale, persistent, decent-grade mineralization at Santa Cecilia. There's a new discovery at Margarita that has not been, the value of which has not been expressed in the share price. You've got a management team here and a technical team that have the track record of success of taking projects like this from infancy to over the line to a transaction. We've raised hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for these kind of projects over the years, although it's a challenging time right now. I've personally been through these kind of choppy waters many times in my career, and you just have to know how to, trade off dilution versus keeping the ball rolling on your project. And I think we're doing a fantastic job of that so far. And we got a plan. I think there's a day of reckoning coming for this particular company. We've done a lot of things to create a lot of value for it. One day that will be recognized. And I think, anyone who's into speculative investments in junior exploration mining companies, it'd be difficult to find one that's got the kind of size of opportunity that you see here at Torq with these Chilean assets.
Perfect. Okay. So we have a question here, just wondering about if a JV for Margarita is a possibility.
That's not something we're considering presently, no.
Okay. Okay. And then I guess just a question in terms of corporate strategy, maybe. You've got three very compelling projects. Are you, is M&A looking for other acquisitions, other projects on the table, or is it very much focused on these three assets?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're being a good corporate citizen down in Chile. People like us, and so word gets around. People are still submitting projects to us. But I can tell you, we'd have to look long and hard to find something that could compete with what we've already got. So we want our team focused on exploring these projects. And of course, we'd let one person do a quick desktop review of anything that comes in that might sort of, upset the apple cart in a good way if we could find something else. But no, our focus is squarely on primarily the Margarita and Santa Cecilia assets right now. We've, Mike and I have said to each other often that we, late in our career here, we're very, very lucky to work on one of the best projects we've had the opportunity to work on. And I've worked on some good ones, and I know Mike has too.
Excellent. Okay, so I do think that's all the questions that have come in. So I think we'll leave things there. So with that, I would like to thank Shawn and Michael from Torq Resources for taking the time today to host the webinar with Red Cloud Securities, and thank you to everybody on the line for tuning in with us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.